Let me just lay in bed.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, so have you been doing outside shows at all?
Some, yeah. I've done like two or three.
I
You
didn't get
know,
to talk to you too much about them. How do you like those?
yeah, you know, they're not the best, but they're something. They're better than a Zoom show,
Yeah,
generally speaking. But
right.
I actually had one last night. That like I I had to blow it off because the second dose hit me so hard, and it was like a 35, 40 minute drive each way.
Yeah,
And
yeah, fuck it.
it was like me. I was like it was kind of cool. It's like outside like an airplane hangar in this airport and stuff. They got all these chairs set up and everything. And I was really looking forward to it. I'd been booked weeks ahead, but like, whenever they're going to give you the second shot, you just take it. You can't be like, you know what, that doesn't work. I need this precious vaccine that people are killing each other for. Can you save mine? Put it so like,
Yeah.
and I hit the booker up in the morning and I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna feel, and he's like, yeah, just let me know. And I was like, I'll let you know by afternoon. And come afternoon, I was just like, woof. It didn't mess with. Kara just felt like a little lightheaded. You
Yeah.
know, we were walking around. She's like, I feel stoned. So she got the good shit.
That's
But
well, cause I don't know. So I'm half and half. So I like that we can do outside shows and Zoom shows, and people
yeah,
are making a lot of money for doing corporate Zoom shows, which thank God that people don't have to go do actual corporates right now.
sure,
But
yeah,
it's so weird to see people come back and do
hmm
live comedy after doing stuff like Zoom and outside shows.
yeah.
It's a different flow.
I did. There's a outdoor venue here called Jam in the Van that used to be like you'd go inside this van and perform. There's like bands do it, but they branched out and they got like a little parking lot and and they set up chairs and it feels like somebody's like outdoor patio and they can charge a good ticket price because it's like free alcohol and weed with ticket price.
Oh,
So they all keep masks on when they're not taking a sip, like at Helium right now. And then,
right.
but you're outside, and I did like a headlining set, and it was like, I did good, but like I knew I was rusty. I was like, I feel
Right.
rusty as hell right now. But I was really glad I did it. Man, it was like feeling like getting laughs and leaving it on a good night, strong applause was like it felt like making it out with your life. Where you're like, you know, like I wasn't gonna win that battle royale, but when Triple H picked me up and I knew he was gonna throw me into a soft place, someone left a bunch of coats on the folding chairs and I landed on that, and I'm like, whew, ah, I'm one of the
And
wrestlers get
also, yeah,
tossed
yeah,
out
you did like
right
two cool
away.
moves.
Two cool
People are like, all
moves.
right,
I,
yeah.
I got a lucky punch in. I kicked Stone Cold in the head, and then Triple H got me by my neck and threw me out of the ring. And so it's like, okay, I'll be remembered well. I made it out,
What?
but it was
So I've seen everybody with rust on them, from
yeah.
new people who have featured and now headlining to people who have headlined 35 years. For you,
hmm
what is that kind of like? Because I don't think there's any other profession where you're rusty and
Right.
it matters, right? Like if I'm maybe a surgeon or something, but for most
Sure.
things,
Yeah, yeah.
you
I
know,
mean, a lot of things once you're trained and stuff. Yeah, yeah, you're right. It's like riding a bike,
mhm,
But like with stand up, it's kind of like you have to almost uh, semi always immerse yourself in it and just be doing it a lot. You don't have to do it every day. In fact, I recommend not doing it every day. You have to have a life too,
right.
and don't be. I read a article about this comic who's out on the town with his wife, and he like stopped off to do a set like during their date, and I was like, you asshole. And I like this comic. And maybe his wife's like, I love your comedy. Let's go. I want to sit in a crowded club. But I was like, dude, just take the night off. Have a date night, man. Have a night for you and her. But but you kind of have to always be going up. And what I compare it to, it's not as bad, but almost every comic I know has had that experience where they do like a late night set where you're doing 4.5 to 5 minutes, which is nothing.
Mhm.
And you've practiced this set a trillion times, and you start the setup and you forget how the joke ends, and then you remember, and it literally feels like you're doing a flying trapeze and you let go of the one, you do a couple flips, and you're like, hey, like where's that hand? And then the hand gets you, and you're like,
And you're good.
ooh, yeah. But it feels like that, but it happens a few times when you're rusty, where you're just like, I don't remember where this joke goes, or you start an initiation and kind of like everyone's kind of giving you a look like, where are you going with this? That's why I think it's you kind of have a piece of you that, like when I was in Ybor City once, this guy was talking to me at a bar, and he's pretty wasted, and he's like, so what do you do? And I'm like, every comic loves that question. You'd probably love that question.
Yeah.
What's that like? What? You're like, oh, that's why like Tom Segura for the longest would say something like, oh, I'm in investments. People be like, great. See the game? They just drop it right there.
Yeah.
But like I told the guy, and he's like, what's that like? Is that hard? Blah, blah, blah. And I was kind of getting annoyed, but I told him the truth. I was like, you know what, man? You kind of just have to not give a fuck. And he laughed and was like, what do you mean? And like, everybody wants a person up there who's not, obviously confident, but you have to you're going to be okay, even if you say something that doesn't land, So even if you're rusty, you just kind of plow through, because it, like you said, it happens to everybody.
Yeah. Well, and I think people who are talented enough to kind of know how to maneuver around and little tricks to like make the crowd laugh, like,
Sure.
Oh, that one's not going in the actor. Like there's tiny little tricks that you can do that even when you're not doing well, you're not going to do horrible. Like if I was up here for my first time, it'd be awful. It'd be 5 minutes of like, like, cause I don't have these skills that you've learned. But I think over time for professionals, it's no problem to kind of, I fucked that one up, but I can keep moving, and the crowd will stay with you.
Yeah. Well, you have to kind of give them the feeling that you know what you're doing, but also you have something really cool to tell them. Everyone likes that guy or gal at like in a social situation where they're like, oh, did you guys hear what happened? Yeah, this guy at this party, evidently he can fart out of his own dick. No shit. Listen. Everyone's like,
everyone's silent. Yeah.
I'm gonna listen.
Do it.
Yeah, you kind of have to like have something to say, even if it's innocuous or inane. It's just that, rather than go, do you guys like this? No? Okay. How about this? Yes. Get out of here.
Well, that's I've always had in my mind. One of my favorite bits that will never be done is someone who's like, hey, have y'all heard about this new Geico commercial? No? Okay. Hey, have you guys heard about this new restaurant on 5th? No? Okay. Because to me, it's one of my least favorite things that people do, because I don't like the audience thinking they have to participate in a way that's not laughter. Right? So
they have to back them up, because people do go like, oh, is that, you guys heard about this? And then go into like that. That's pretty common. But yeah, something like that where it's like, oh, you obviously have a joke about it. I remember one of the most annoying things when I started out was comics who would bring up, and that's this poor woman, the Monica Lewinsky thing. And I started well after that was old news. So you'd see a comic, always a dude, bomb, and go, you guys remember Monica Lewinsky with the cigar? Well, it's like, oh, you're going to dust off that old chestnut? Really? It was a sad incident. No one, overall, I think most people, and she's like completely owned it, and she's like, and not even owned, like she didn't even own, we all have sex, but it was like, she's now this, really cool person, like the way she took it with grace, and she's evolved and into being able to talk to the public, where she just got stomped by every comic and every dick dude and person. And even then, we're like, you could see the audience just go, like, you're bringing this up again? I mean, really, 85% of us feel bad for her right now. And it's 1999 or 2000 or whenever I started, it's like, so yeah, that's it. That when someone they have this thing in the pocket all the time, that they're like, well, if things go bad, I'll bring that out, and it's a dated reference. No.
Awful.
I'm not going to say you can or can't do this kind of comedy, but for me, that's pretty brutal.
Well, I mean, there's plenty of people who get by off doing that nonsense, but I
Sure.
don't think they're necessarily having a good time, right? Like if I'm up here and I have to bring up Jared from Subway, I'm not necessarily enjoying my time on stage, and that shines on the audience. I think where
Right.
they don't leave feeling as happy as they could have.
Well, especially because he's in jail for child pornography. They're like, "How'd you get him out, Nick? Who do you know? Why do you hang with this guy?"
He's got the punch card, man. I mean, Subway's hooking me up.
It'd be amazing. He still owns a huge chunk of Subway, and he's like from prison buying ads and being like, "I am innocent." And it's like,
He's
Jared,
calling them up. We need the
yeah.
Philly steak right
And
now.
he's crazy fat in prison too. Like his commissary has so much money. He has like stacks of candy and shit behind him, and he's just like, he's got like an Al Capone cell, like silk and shit.
Yeah. Bathtub wine, just living.
he's got he's got quality toilet wine. He got a guy transferred from another prison who makes good toilet wine.
Making moves. Well, I'm curious because you kind of you grew up in Portland, went to Chicago, became a headliner, and then Helium came around 2010. So
Yeah.
how important to a scene do you think a club is? Because for people who don't know, Portland always had like Harvey's or something, but it wasn't
Sure.
necessarily a place where people wanted to go to grow, or a lot
Hmm.
of open micers coming to get better and then moving on to like Los Angeles. Like,
Yeah.
how important to a scene is a comedy club?
It's hard to say because when I started in Chicago, there was Zanies, which is very small, and none of us really went up there besides like John Roy.
Mhm.
And it was funny because we used to make fun of him for going because he owned a car to go. He would drive and do guest sets, work, and the rest of us would do our bullshit in bars and shit and get drunk. And we were definitely writing good stuff, but it was like he was going to, and we'd like make fun of him. And he'd be like, "All right, guys, have fun at your fucking jobs." And we're like, "Shit, he's got us there. He's doing it for a living." But we wouldn't really. I didn't really have any kind of relationship with Zanies. I did maybe 2 guest sets like the 6 years I lived in Chicago. So, but we also, I wouldn't even. Our scene was this open mic that everyone would go to. So, in a way, that was a comedy club because people went for the comedy, even though it was an open mic, because it was a famous one. Um, but I think it's very important. It's very important to have some place that people go to see headliners when they come through, and to do a guest set if you can, and to make your bones because
Right.
it's hard to book a bar show. It's hard to get people. I mean, I've had this bit forever that I always feel like is just for comedians about like what I call like kamikaze shows, where I used to do these shows where I'd show up and be like, there's a guy and he's like, "Hey, show starts in 5 minutes," and I'm like, "There's no sign here, man. Like, do these people know a show's about to start?" And the guy's like, "They will." And I'm like, "You're a dick, man. You can't. I love comedy more than anyone. You can't spring comedy on people. You can't be like lights up and everyone's like, fuck, I'm listening to music. I'm with a girl, or I'm with my friends. I don't want to turn and listen to you talk about your dick. This isn't cool at all. You have to have a sign up, be like comedy tonight, so people are like, I'm not into it. Let's go down But so it's really hard to not only book those, but get people to come to those. People just come to comedy clubs, and Helium, like from the get go, had a great rep, and like thankfully, like the press was like, oh, this is awesome, and it was a little bit more of an accessible than club than Harvey's. I mean, God bless Harvey's. A lot of us did it. I think I've headlined there twice and had a great time. But like, it just Harvey's was kind of like a temple in and of itself. Helium
Right.
being an independent chain, kind of new to let me get the feel for the town and figure out where to go and stuff. And yeah, and it was already like legendary in Philly, so pretty
One, I
cool.
think for me, Harvey's has been a great release for people who don't want to watch comedy the right way.
Okay.
So, you know what I mean? For people who I just want to drink, I want to take
Yeah.
shots, I want to have
Sure.
my grandma, my wife, my
Hmm.
son, all
Hmm.
these weird people together and fuck who's on stage. Like
Yeah.
we need that because I don't want you here. and if you're here, you're gonna get kicked out. Like it's almost inevitable.
Yeah,
So
that's funny.
it's nice to have that place where they can go, where they could tell me, "Fuck you, I'm going to Harvey's," and I could say, "Great."
Awesome. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true. It's true. It was very much, the pack them in, and just people from, further and further and further out from Portland. People just kind of going, and so it's, but yeah, that's a really good point. It is a lot more of kind of a crazy scene there for sure.
What?
Whereas like Helium, it's like people are listening for the most part.
And comedy clubs in general, I think, are misunderstood because there's so many different types. Like if I'm talking to you
Yeah.
about a restaurant, we know what's happening, right? And so you wouldn't
Hmm.
go and I'm like, oh well, this restaurant you bring your own food. You'd be like, well, that's not a fucking restaurant.
Right.
But with comedy clubs, they're so different in that this one could run like this one could run like that.
Yeah.
As a
Yeah.
comic, how, because you are going to all of them, how do you navigate that where you're like, well, this one is not the same as the one I was at last week, but I still have to do my job?
Yeah, I mean, it's like it just depends on the market. You go where people mostly it's like my reps reach out for offers, or they get offers, and I kind of look at it and go. And typically I won't, my rate is not very that expensive according to like the market. I think it's I'm worth it for sure, but it's like, you know, if I get the if the offer comes through and all, it's like hotel and flight, it's like, yeah, I'll do it. I don't really care, where I'll go. It's like a big thing was like when I started was like, well, are you cool going to places in the deep south? Are you cool playing a black club? And it was always just like, yeah, like I'm getting paid. I don't. I really kind of have a bad reaction to comics who, and look, you've got to be comfortable, but comics who are like, I just play this. I need this kind of audience. I need a lot of dudes in glasses, and I want, like or whatever. And that's fine. I like those crowds too. It's very fun, but like, you kind of got to be able to juggle your shit and mix it up. Like I had Roy Wood Jr. on my podcast, and he talked about how he would play these biker bars and shit, and he would do racist material. You know, he's like, fuck it, I just want to get out of here alive. And it was like, that's extreme. That's insane. I don't think comics should have to do that. But it's that's why it's one reason he's so great. Is because he did that. So it's most part comedy club. I really can't offhand think of one. I'm like, I will never go back there, because the thing is, I don't really get the maniacs. I feel like, who am I? I'm trying to think, like Bert Kreischer when he was still doing clubs. Of course, people would just drink their asses off, but
Yeah.
I think because he's such a fun, friendly, shirtless dad, I can't really see fights breaking out or people,
No.
like, so it's not to be like they're all great, because I'm sure as soon as this podcast is over, I was like, oh fuck that place, but honestly, like the only like bad crowds I've had are like crowds that are really drunk and really rich, because
I
it's
hate those
because
people.
yeah, because there's a level of built-in entitlement on a cellular level.
Yeah.
It's just, and and yes, typically they're white, but it's like it's just this thing of like this kind of, yeah, impress me kind of attitude, rather than I'm here to have fun, show me your world, let's have a good time. you know like some clubs in New York you go to, and you just see people kind of leaning forward. They're like, hey, I work at a shitty job, I'm here to have fun. It's just like, oh, this is the best. you know
Well, I think, and I don't know if you can even control this as a crowd member, but I think what people don't realize is that you're almost going to get what you give. Like, any concert or something, if you go and everyone's just kind of quiet, the band will be like, all right, 1, 2, 3, play our shit. But
Right.
like, if you are engaged and you're laughing more and you're like, I just want to have fun, the show will, like, so we had Lavelle Crawford this weekend, and on Sunday, the crowd started like kind of and he goes, there's cemeteries all over this city if you just want to fucking be sad. He said, come here to have a good time. And then the crowd like opened up, and it was the best show of the weekend because it really is like, hey, I get that you're, I don't know, standoffish or what, but you gotta let go, and
Without a
this will
doubt.
be so much better for everybody involved.
Without a doubt. Yeah, I mean, the first thing I thought of when you were like, you got to give as a crowd was, and this is also the thing, people don't think about, you and I know this, but how important architecture is to a club, the way it's built. Heliums are built like an Arrowhead,
Hmm.
Comedy Works in Denver, incredible room, because you feel like you're a unified force. That's why comedy suffered so much by, not being able to happen during quarantine. But uh, I saw, oh God, I think I was in college, and I saw Ice Cube and Cool G Rap at the Arlene Schnitzer Concert Hall when I was home for the summer. And those poor rappers, because they're in, like you've been in the Schnitz, right?
Yeah,
Gilded, beautiful, golden. Like my
it's a,
prom was in the lobby.
yeah, it's
Uh,
for like violinists and shit.
yes, or
Yeah.
maybe comedy. I think like what's his name? Nick Swartzen plays there. Daniel Tosh plays there. It's probably what 2-3 thousand maybe. I don't
Probably
know
about that, yeah.
about that. I saw Living Color there when I was in high school, and it was a great show. And I almost killed the lead singer accidentally. That's another story. He came running down the balcony. We were on the balcony, me and my friend Lev, and he ran by me, and I was like, "Yeah!" And I hit him on the back, like, "Buddy!" And he's like, "Ugh!" And he just goes tumbling, and he caught himself on the rail, and he just looks back at me with his fucking body glove suit, like he always wore like the surfer onesie, and
Was
just
it
singing, but looking at me like, "You son of a bitch."
was it after their hit?
No, this was when Cult of Personality was out. This is when they
Oh,
were
you should have
hot.
killed them. They would have sold so many more records.
Yeah. Vernon Reed sent me a letter. Never liked Corey. Good job. No, but like, so they made it happen because they rock. But when you have like, Cool G Rap doing Ill Street Blues, and his hype men, I've never seen hype men work harder.
Yeah.
Come on, y'all, you got to give it up, man. And people are like, yeah, yeah. But if they were at like the Roseland or something, it would have been like, this is awesome. But that was the Ice Cube room, I guess. And you could see it in Ice Cube's eyes. He's kind of just, all right, here's a hit, here's another one. But it's so much of it is, it's not only architecture, but to your point, how much the audience gives.
Well,
And
I
it was
think,
hard to give
yeah,
with those
I think the
guys.
architecture leads you to give up more. Like some of
Hmm.
the best concerts I've ever been to are sold out. You're standing, it's
Yep,
hot, and
yep,
I think unconsciously you're more, all right, I'm angsty because I'm packed in, but
yep,
oh, I like this song. I'm going, like, if you think of 8 Mile,
yeah,
that's the
yeah,
perfect
for
thing, right?
sure.
Because you're just, fuck yeah,
Yeah,
like,
that
we're
room,
here.
8 Mile, that's a great comedy room,
Hmm.
because it's focused. It really comes down to community and feeling like a part of something. Like this is our group. We like this comedian. We like him or her or them, and we're into this. And like it's a it's a unified force. Whereas the way you have to do like a lot of outdoor shows and indoor shows is everyone's apart and stuff, and it's not as it's not as good. It's because you have to when you have people. I used to joke about shows where like if I do like a Sunday show and it was like half full, and I'd mess with them. I was like, don't get all weird. I know you feel like there's ninjas behind you. I know, but because it is that thing of like these empty seats
Yeah.
because it's just this darkness. There's no one behind you because it's weird. I felt more nervous performing for like when I was in college and they put me in a huge room and like a third of it sold because I'm like these people feel weird and so I feel weird now too, and so let me call it out and let me work it through my little issues and then we're cool. But it is we'd all much rather have a smaller room that's full of people that's not uncomfortable but everyone's kind of like that's why like the Comedy Cellar and the Comedy Store just it's such a fun those are fun places to be.
Yeah, it's been weird because people will come in. So now we open the doors an hour before because there's no hanging out in the lobby, right? So it's like grab your
Right,
ticket,
right.
sit in the showroom, don't
Oh,
move
cool.
around. And when people get here, they used to, pick up their tickets and come back. But now they're like, all right, I'll just go sit in the showroom, order a drink or whatever. When they're
Yeah.
the first couple, you could tell how anxious they are. Like, damn,
Uh-huh.
no one else is here. What is
Oh.
like? It is a very weird thing that no one wants to be. I mean, for me, I wouldn't care. It'd be funny to see like someone struggle with just me in the audience. Um, but if you're a normal customer, it is a thing where you're like, I want this to be communal. I don't want to be
Yeah.
a king. I want this to like have a feel of a show.
Mm-hmm. It's you want it to have the feel of an event, which
Yeah.
it is. No matter how it's big or small, it's always an event because it will never, whatever's going on stage and in that audience will never happen again. It's kind of like I had a yoga teacher once who's like kind of middle-aged guy who like the classic they got into yoga and like quit his high-paying job and started a studio. But he was like he obviously was one of those dudes who could like talk you into a car if he wanted to kind of thing. But like he was explaining, he's like, it's like when you make one motion with your arm and then you make the same motion, you use different muscles each time. Do you know that? And I'm like, no. He's like, it's like that app. Was it Waze? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, it'll be different directions to the same place. It's like that with your muscle system because different synapses are firing. You're doing curls, and there's different muscles that are operating with your biceps and your, forearms and all that stuff. And I think that's true with shows where you're just like, even if I did the exact same jokes in the exact same order, which I don't really do because that kind of bores me. But if I did and did 5 shows as an experiment, not only would each show be different, but it just moment to moment it just feels different. It's not a movie, it's not an
Right.
album. It's just
Right.
like that's what people love live shit. It's just like it doesn't have to be something crazy like were you there when that guy, you know, lit a stick of dynamite on stage and threw it in a garbage can. Like it doesn't have to be something crazy. It's like, but it's like, oh, something about that night seeing that person, and it's like I'll never forget that night because it was,
Well,
it's a thing.
I mean, I think that's the reason why comics have to say, okay, so the other day, I think there's a reason that has to be done because it almost has to feel like, hey, we're having a conversation and I'm telling you some funny shit.
Yeah.
Like I've seen where people, and it was funny, but they were like reading a story they were working on, and it's like really fucking sharp. And if you read it by yourself, you'd be like, oh, this is really cool. But watching it to a crowd, they were almost like,
Yeah.
where if they were just to say it without letting people know they were reading it, it would be
Exactly.
like, fuck yeah, this is hilarious.
I tried that when I first do comedy. I would try to like read shit I wrote that I thought was funny, even like a fake thing, and it would do okay. Like it was always something like what was it? It was like I read like a letter from somebody, and then I had this guy who was like beatboxing, and I was like, now I want to read a Civil War letter, and I pulled it out, and then the dude pulled a violin and started playing. Like he was a really good violinist, and so people were like, and it was kind of a flip because they were just like, wait, what the fuck? You can play a violin too? That was the joke, and it was fine, but it obviously was something we'd rehearsed, and they weren't really into that, You want something that's even if it's a joke you told a bunch of times, it's kind of unifying. Like Dave Attell, one of my favorites, is when he's just like, I used to do a lot of drugs, but that was way back there. Anyway, it's like, it's like it's such a misdirect that you think he's going to start into like, oh, drugs almost ruined my life. It's like, no, I'm high now. I just did something back in the back, right over there.
Right.
It's hilarious and absurd, and it's in the moment. Like you're saying.
Yeah, and he does this thing where he almost steps on his punchline, where he's like da 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 punchline, and then he'll let people laugh, and I think that's a really cool move because then people are like, oh, he's just talking and we're laughing and we're interrupting. God, this guy, he's just coming up with this shit right now. It's hilarious.
Yep.
And you're like, no, he's a fucking genius, and he came up with it a long time ago.
Yeah, and he just knows how to wait to give you space so you don't feel like you're missing things. Because you don't want to get too nervous and just fucking burn through your shit, which I've definitely done. You let people hear it,
Mm-hmm.
I remember a friend of mine was telling me he saw this guy. I don't remember who it was, but when I first started, and the guy's like killing. And he's killing so hard he goes over the stool and he gets like a sip of his water and they start laughing and he's like, oh yeah, that was hilarious. What? And that made them laugh harder. because they were obviously still laughing from something he'd said, but because he took a second and like made fun of them for thinking him drinking out of his water glass was funny, he's kind of like kind of roasting him a little bit. It was like it was kind of staying in the moment, and yeah.
Well, I think that's for me watching the best comics, and I get to see 5-6 shows a week from truly good headliners, but to see the people who can, I could take that a little higher. Like I got this laugh here, I could get it a little bit more. Like that to me is what separates great from okay. Like I don't think there's good and great. I think you're either okay or you're great.
Interesting. Yeah, you could be right. I mean, it's it's funny. Stephen King on writing, in his book On Writing, which is, if someone's interested in being creative, it's just great to read, to like learn kind of the angles of being better at your craft and creatively. But he has a line where he was just like, I what did he say? He's like, it's like, I think you can be an okay writer and become a good writer, but I don't think you can go become a good writer and become great. He's like, I just think you're either kind of okay or great, So it's like, that's when you said that, that's what it made me think of. I was like, this could be like across all platforms in a way.
It could be, yeah. Because I mean, I just think that good is okay. Like there's either people leave like, oh my God, that was an amazing show, or they leave like, yeah, that was good. And they're not saying it was good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're like, yeah, it was all right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, I would say, I think you can always kind of get better, but there are just people that are just like, they kind of get out there and just like, I call it like throwing a bomb into the audience. Like they just come out tossing grenades, and it's like, oh fuck, this is gonna be amazing kind of thing,
Speaking of grenade tossers, so official introduction. This is Center Stage. Thank you for listening. We're here with someone who might actually be a friend of mine, and I'm very proud to say that.
Yes, we're friends.
You have, is it 4 albums now?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 albums.
5. My man has 5 albums. He also has a podcast. This might help. And thank you again for doing this. This is dope.
For sure. You know what you made me think of was the Mad Rapper, though, off of Biggie's album. He's like, my shit's way more John Blaze than that.
Way more John Blaze. Y'all don't want to hear this shit.
But he's like, he got, he got cars, he got bitches. Like, this is my 4th album, yo. This is my 4th album. I ain't made a dime yet. Like, when you said 4 albums, I was like, shit, I feel like the Mad Rapper.
And they ain't trying to hear my shit.
Yeah, I'm out here, I'm screaming about like fucking Bert Kreischer or Nate Bargatze or something. Like, fuck them. Why am I not making that money?
Oh my gosh, I forgot all about. The Mad Rapper put out a fucking CD, like an album.
I knew that. Yeah, I saw it. I was like, why?
I bought it.
Did you?
I think I was like 14. Yeah, I was like, oh, okay. What? I don't know what rap is.
I just remember, I think I was like a freshman. I was in college, and like I just remember that it'd be like if you're doing a joke argument with someone, and you're like, why are you gonna take that and not mine? My shit is way more John Blaze than that.
Oh shit! Oh, and I my bad. I forgot to ask you. So I think you've been to all the Heliums. I know you've been to Portland, Philly. Have you been to St. Louis and Buffalo?
St. Louis, I've never been to.
Okay, it's in the mall. Don't worry about it.
I've been to. Hey, as long as the people in the mall can't see inside the club, I don't care. The club feels like a club.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place, but I'm not, I'm not here to stand up for no one else's club. So you've been to Raleigh. Have you done Indianapolis yet?
No, I haven't done.
Brand new.
So that's 2 I haven't done. Yeah.
All right. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna have you give a rating to these clubs that you've been to. So 8 is gonna be 8 is amazing. There's nothing you could change. 1 is gonna be there's some more John Blaze shit out there. Like this is not the place.
Yeah.
So we'll start with Portland.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely give Portland a 7 or an 8 because it's a perfectly laid out club. It's in the right part of town it should be, where there's still some parking left, and there's still like bars around there and like decent restaurants, especially now. Like when I kind of suggested to Grossman that he put it around there, just off the top of my head. I was like, that's where I think I would put it because you'll probably get a decent amount of space and like things are just going to start happening around there. I feel it, and they really did.
Yeah,
and so
nailed it.
you know, things kind of built around there. So yeah, I've never had a problem with that place. I think all of it's good. Just the layout, staff, hell, even the manager, even that guy.
Dude's a fucking fame whore. He just wants to host podcasts and talk to comics.
Yeah, right.
How about for Philadelphia?
Philadelphia's like even keel with Portland. They're actually really similar clubs. They're in really cool areas of town and like just old school audiences, and it's so dope. And like Philly gets dumped on for being like a bunch of assholes, and don't get me wrong, they are. But like no, like it's
no,
just,
they
it's
are.
kind of like it's they wear it on their sleeve like a badge. It's kind of like they don't, if you suck, they'll tell you.
Right.
So that's why it's always felt good to be there. But like that and perform there. But that club is just dope, dude. I did a volunteer work at this basically a sexual health outreach that's kind of like in the inner city, and they needed like if I have free time on the road, I'll like look for volunteer shit I can do.
Right.
Just a couple hours. I ain't gonna do it all day. But like I was like moving some furniture for them, and they're like, well, what do you do? And I told them, and they're like, can we come? And I'm like, you want to go on the list? And they're like, yeah. And 5 or 6 of them came, and they hadn't been to a comic club in forever, and they were like, I forgot this club was here. This is great. And they had like the best time. It's one of those places where, just like anywhere in town, just like any town, they forget about the local club.
Right.
But when they go, both those clubs, people are like, fuck, man, who's coming up? I'm gonna go back. It's just great.
That's why we get lucky that we have comics like you, or a plethora of other ones where I might not necessarily know you like that.
Totally.
But I go and I'm like, wow, that was fucking great. Now I'll go see someone else I might not know.
Thank you. Well, it's like, did I tell you that the Super Bowl ad I did gave me exactly what my microcosm of fame is? Like, mathematically, I found out. I got so many people on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram that were like, I was with my family and friends watching the bowl game, and I was like, Matt Braunger. Everyone else went, who? As long as I have one person at every Super Bowl party, I'm cool.
Right.
Bring your friends. But it was like that, to hear that story from people that didn't know each other again and again and again was so fucking funny to me. So like, I'll take it.
Well, I mean, that's good, because then it's like, well, I think you're funny, and I'll force somebody to go with me, and then they'll have a good time. Like how many times you like clap if someone forced you to come, and it's half the room.
Yeah, and I before I even did comedy, it was like one of those things where like, we're gonna go to this comedy club. I like this person. It's just like, oh, have you seen this band? I don't know them. Here, let's go. They'll play them a couple, tracks off my album on the way, and be like, oh, this is cool.
Right.
Great. I don't care why you're there, as long as you're there.
Just buy tickets and go.
I don't need everyone wearing T-shirts with my face on them.
How about for Buffalo? 1 to 8.
Buffalo, honestly, I feel like it's a little wide the way it's laid out. But I like the area of town that's in too, because it's got, I always think about parking. I always think about space and like, but to have that combination of, it's not in the sticks, it's in Buffalo. There's some cool shit that's right around there. I think I'd give it like probably like a 6 or a 7, and they run it really well.
Right.
And I get, I always get some really cool people going there. So,
It's very good. And then how about Raleigh? Charlie Goodnights.
Yeah, I love doing that club. I feel like the stage is a little high above people, and I'm tall, and so it's a little odd for me. And I've had like an issue or two with sound,
Mm.
but I don't even want to give it a 5. I want to give it at least a 6 because they staff it so well, and they deal with shit. I've had some 1 or 2 nights where people got a little wild, and the staff like
Right.
handled it, in like a respectful fashion. I don't really get many people who are like, I'm fucking someone up, like start throwing bottles. So
That's my new favorite heckle right there. Like, okay. I remember we
and
had
they
a
just
guy.
look around. Just anyone, not
I
even the guy on
remember we
stage.
had a dude for Norm McDonald who was like screaming out to Norm. He's like, Norm, I fucking love you, or whatever. And we're like, all right, man, you got to stop. And he goes, I ain't stopping. It's my First Amendment right. And I was like, okay, well, we can call the police. And he goes, no, before I said that, he said, you got to go. And he goes, if you want me out of here, you're going to have to get violent. And I go, no, I'm just going to call the police.
You're going to have to get, what's this, Thunderdome? All right, you heard him. Everyone back up. 2
Right.
enter, 1 man leave. You take your shirt off. You got like tattoos of skulls and shit. You pick an axe up. You're like, you got to pick a weapon, man.
Well, that's like if my man wanted to get saucy, we could have put it on. But I'm like, I'm not fucking with you, dude. I'm just gonna call the police. They're gonna come and pull you out of here. You're gonna look dumb, and then and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. Why would I put my hands on you? Why? I don't. Yeah. Your issues are not my problem. I'm not gonna let you goad me into a fucking one-on-one fist fight. Like this isn't 6th grade, man. I don't care.
That fucking guy, I hated him so much. I wanted the police.
Yeah.
This is the only, and this
him.
is a weird time to say it, but this was the only time I was like, can they fuck this guy up, please?
Can you just bang his head off the hood as you put him in the car? That's
right.
All.
Do it for the good one time.
Just once.
For the people. And then lastly, we got bananas.
In what? In
Jersey.
In Cincy? In Jersey?
Yeah. Have you done that one? It's in like a Holiday Inn.
That's third. No, I haven't done that one.
Well, I don't know if we want to get there, but we could probably book you in that one.
I'll take it. I don't know. Dude, I just had a year where I didn't do any shows. So like really. So it's like I'm like fuck it. I've not been like, oh, I'm dying without it, because I did have this kid I got to watch it every second of every day. So it's like that was something that took up my time in a very cool way. But like there were those times where I dream about the early gigs where it was just shitty, and you're just like, oh man, like the time I was like about to go on stage and they had 3 bachelorette parties that were like tearing shit up. Like all 3 of them divided the room in their sovereign states and kind of yelling at each other and shit. Fuck Jennifer. Ashley runs this place. And like the manager got me backstage and I was about to go on. He's like, I can't kick them all out. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Just sweating and shit, tying.
Yes, scared for his life. And I went on stage and just was like, I'm just going to yell. I'm going to be crazier than them. And it's like, I want them back. But it was like, it was that moment where you just like, you kind of get that sinking feeling where you're like, why do I do this? What am I doing? But I even was kind of missing that moment of just kind of being like, I'm just going to jump, man. I hope this parachute opens. Fuck. I don't know.
Oh my
horrified.
God. What a fucking horrible. Yeah, I've gotten to the point now where I'm mean to them up front. Because I feel like I'm going to have to get mean later. So instead of doing that, I'm like, hey, y'all, the dicks, we got to take it all off. Hey, we're not doing that. And usually they get upset, but by the time they get into the show, they're like, I've already talked to them.
I will say, too, I think bachelorette parties have been roasted so hard. My worst experiences, honestly, have been with bachelor parties, where it's. Did I tell you that story where I thought I was gonna get murdered at the Jukebox Comedy Club?
No, by a bachelor party?
20 dudes, all of them like 20 nothing, like 21, 22, young guys, just fucking loud. Not a huge crowd. every time I just kept being like, guys, come on, like making fun of them, clowning them, ha ha ha. And like they just kept talking, kept talking, kept talking, and the tables around them were just like, yeah, I could see them like going like, come
Ugh.
on, man. And I just I like turned into Al Pacino, and I was just like, shut the fuck up and act like fucking men. I've been dating this girl for a while. You know, like no transition, right into a joke, and kind of want them back a little bit, but they're all like, "You out of your mind?" And I felt like I had lost. I felt like I broke.
Yeah.
I felt ashamed of myself. I got backstage, and I was like, I wasn't gonna drink tonight. I'm gonna go have a beer before I go back to my hotel. I need to fucking cut this anxiety right in half. And I went and sat at the bar and I had a beer. And a dude, like about my height and bigger, came and stood by me. And I was like, here we fucking go. This guy's gonna drag me out, you know, of this place, and they're all gonna kick the shit out of me. And he goes, hey man, just want to apologize for my friends. We really we're out of hand, and you know, he's getting married, and so I just want to say, you know, thanks. And I was like, hey. Then I shook his hand. I was like, thank you. Thanks for saying that. And he walked away. It was just like, but it was just like everyone has a breaking point. That was mine. And it was just, you know, so like I think bachelorette parties have been made fun of so much that they're like, all right, let's just fucking not be insane, please.
Right.
You know?
Well, I
yeah.
hate anybody who is not there for the show where they're there for them. So that,
Right.
like, I had a host who, it wasn't mine, it was someone, and he's like, hey, who's having a birthday in here? And I almost do something at the stage. Like, don't fuck, who gives a fuck? Shut up.
Yeah.
Like, I want it to be so, like, when you see the dystopian futures and everyone's in the same jumpsuit and, like, you can't, it's no one's discerning. That's what I want. You know, and I think that leads to the best show. So if you're like, we're a bachelor party and my mate here is getting married and, you know, this is our night. No, it's not your night. It's everybody's night. And you have to appreciate and respect that.
Dude, I got married in my early 40s, and my bachelor party, we went to fucking Temecula, wine country, and went and tasted some wines, and fucking there'd be a dude singing folk songs, and we would throw like 20s and 100s at him and be like, learn this song, motherfucker. You know, and they'd be like, shit, all right. Like, look it up. And, you know, like, but like people were into that, and we were at a hand. But it's like, if we were not, most of us comedians, we might go to a comedy club, but we would just sit there and listen and just laugh and have that feeling of like, I'm out. This is great. I'm out on the town. I never go out on the town. I'm 42, you know? So like, I just feel like I used to have a bit about how you get married whatever age you want, but you gotta wait to your 40s to have your bachelor or bachelorette party. That's the deal. You got to.
I mean,
and you got something to look forward to, like a cruise or something.
Right, life would be so much better if that was the case. We had young people in here the other day, and I felt bad for them because they can't go to clubs, they can't do what they want to do, so they came here, and they just didn't know how to act. You know, you can't teach someone in the night. It takes, you know, time. You have to go to like a play and understand how things work before you kind of come to a comedy show and sit.
And most people, I grew up going to live events with my parents, and like I kind of learned then, and you know, Steve Martin's legendary heckler put down, that guy yells and he goes, I remember my first beer. Like, the reason why that's funny is because the first time any of us drank, we were idiots, because it's idiot juice and you don't know how to deal with it. So it's like when you're very young and you have the metabolism of a cheetah and you're drinking Everclear and Kool-Aid, you're going to be the worst. The worst.
Oh. All right, so this segment is called Stories We've Heard About You. So I got a story that I've heard about you. I'm going to say it, and then I'm going to ask you a question based off it.
Great. I will say we got about 6 minutes before the wife comes home. Okay, great.
I'll run through it.
Awesome.
So I asked a couple of people, and this is my favorite one. Oh, God, I don't know. He's probably got something with a woman that's embarrassing.
Nice.
So my question...
Wow.
My question is...
That's so loaded.
I know. So, like, when Bert Kreischer was here last, there was a lady who was licking a pole and was, like, very, like, hey, Bert. Like...
Right.
And that's the only time I've ever seen a groupie.
Ah.
How real is this groupie thing?
Not very. I think you have what it's like toss around the term chuckle fucker. There
Right.
aren't really a lot people like a funny person. They're attracted to that, men and women. But it's like you don't really get. I've never been that person, and I never really chased it
Yeah.
on the road. I would, I had my days where I definitely was like on the prowl, but that was more like in Los Angeles
Right.
or but when he probably something embarrassing when it comes to a woman, it's like, God, what did I make? Like untoward advances? I make someone feel uncomfortable because it's like, sure, I've had those instances where I was just like too drunk and like hitting on someone and stuff like that. Like I'm just being honest, and I'm not like going like I have a confession coming out from the lawyer.
Yeah, like Nick, scrub the
I can't believe
podcast.
I'm visually sweating. I'm just mopping my neck.
The whole
But
Tiger
like,
Woods face.
but like I remember I did have a girl in Atlanta who her and her friend came to the show and they were like beyond loaded, and they were like, of course now my wife's coming home, and then I bought a pony.